Hello, folks. It's Joe from MIGeekScene. I'm here at Shuto Con 2017 for the 2-year anniversary of MIGeekScene, and I'm here with Brent Black, a.k.a. Brentalfloss.
Hello.
Brent, how's the con been for you so far?
Well, a lot of really cool fans. I have to tell you, I've been doing this a long time. I've been focusing on other things than my YouTube channel for the last year. It's easy for me to start believing that people don't care anymore. But the fact is that at this convention, it sounds like a brag, but my heart is warmed by finding out that there are people who still remember the videos I did. Maybe they were 12 when I started and they're like adults now. It's crazy. But it's been a really nice reminder that the stuff I've done on YouTube, that people watched it and I liked it. So for me, it's been a real ego boost, to be honest.
And you had a nice turnout at your concert earlier today.
Yes, especially for a noon concert on a Saturday. I felt pretty good about it.
I took some shots of that, so they might appear in this interview.
Hey.
Maybe right here.
Editing magic.
Editing magic. All right, well, obviously, you were a theater kid when growing up.
Yes.
What was your first exposure to theater?
Oh, gosh. Well, in kindergarten, we put on a little, fall program, and the theme of the first one was Broadway. So I heard probably 20 Broadway songs before most kids hear Barney the Dinosaur. I was in kindergarten, little tiny baby child, and but my parents were into theater. Especially my mom was into musical theater soundtracks, and I believe my first play, I would have been 7 or 8 years old. I'm not even sure what it was, to be honest, but I did little acting classes after my mom noticed I looked kind of like Macaulay Culkin at the time, and I told her I wanted to be Macaulay Culkin, and she was like, "You mean you want to act in movies?" And I was like, "Yeah." So we started with theater.
I'd have to say Kieran was the cooler of the Culkins.
That's fair.
Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Wallace. All right, well, why is Little Shop of Horrors one of your favorite musicals?
Well, I mean, it's really good, but also I think it hit me at that exact right time. I was 12, and it's a time where you start to realize some of the music you like has deeper implications. I liked the darkness of the show. I liked the fact that it was sort of squeaky clean on the outside, but there was something just under the surface that was much darker and creepier to it, and that all started to come together. Around that time, I was also listening to Rocky Horror Picture Show, which is like a soundtrack that, if you're a little kid, doesn't all make sense, but then you start to put together, oh, I get it. This is adult stuff. So Little Shop just has a great soundtrack. And great lyrics. Howard Ashman is one of my favorite lyricists of all time. He's great at hiding really good internal rhymes without you realizing it. It's just a pleasant lyric to listen to, and then later you realize he rhymed specimen and yes I'm in. For instance, that's Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. Same lyricist as Little Shop of Horrors. But yeah, it's just a really great show, but again, hit me at that sweet spot.
Comedic influences.
Oh, man. Well, nobody likes Bill Maher anymore, but he is an influence of mine, even though some people find him too smug and offensive. Eddie Izzard, Jerry Seinfeld, and Weird Al. Pretty much any lyricist who wrote for Dr. Demento, and Monty Python.
When I was watching you on stage earlier, I was like, this guy kind of reminds me of Don Rickles at times.
Yeah, there is a bit of that in the Brentalfloss stage persona. I feel like I'm a midway point between Eddie Izzard and Don Rickles with much less preparation.
Okay. Well, when I was listening to your albums, I noticed a lot of jazz influences on songs like Super Mario World, BioShock, and Baby Mario and Papa Yoshi. Are there any personal favorite artists of yours?
Well, I'll be honest. Jazz is one of those genres that I like a little bit of it. I like a bit of the seasoning of jazz thrown in, but when I listen to straight up Coltrane, I'm not always snapping along, you know what I mean? I like a little bit of Bill Evans, Autumn Leaves, I like a little bit of Chet Baker, a song of his called, Tenderly, there we go, is good. But more than pure jazz, I typically like the kind of jazz you'll find in musical theater. For instance, the works of Kander and Ebb, Chicago, Cabaret, stuff like that.
I will have to give you credit, though, because when I was researching your music, your Super Mario World, that was great. And you nailed it for Satchmo.
I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, thanks, man.
So we're going to talk about the Philosophy album, your last released album.
Right.
And I will have to give you credit because I enjoyed the Ballad of Mages featuring, Mad in the Mood and Megaran. Honestly, I did not know that was Megaran when he came up as the Black Mage.
Yeah. He was a lot of fun working with him. He's a good friend.
And I'm sorry I have to keep reading these, but Game Launch Rock was a very important lesson, and it was pretty funny.
Thank you.
But what advice would you give as far as that goes about buying a new console?
Well, look, I think it is sort of a mistake to buy a new console at launch, even though sometimes you really want it. It's always going to have a draw, but there's always going to be a drawback. So even though if somebody gave me a Switch, I'd be like, hey, great, thank you. But I'm not going to buy one because it just launched, and I learned my lesson with the Wii U.
Actually, I just bought a Wii U last night.
Oh, wow.
Not brand new. I got a deal on it because I wanted to play Breath of the Wild, and I didn't want to justify paying $300 for a brand new system to play one game when I paid $150 for this, and there's like 4 games that I'd want to purchase for it.
Not bad.
Well, back to the video for that, for Game Launch Rock, I do like the epilogue, although it didn't end so well for Sir Game Boy.
That's right. Actually, that was written by my animator, Sean Depew, and I liked it, so he kept it. It was sort of a gag he just threw in, and I was like, all right, I can dig it.
And that would certainly encourage people who've only listened to your music to check out the videos, too.
Yeah, well, you should, because some of them are not half bad.
Well, while performing, have you had any Spinal Tap moments?
You're going to need to define that for me.
Comedic mishaps on stage that are not...
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Not turning it up to 11.
I mean, one time I made a joke... Well, one time a blind guy in the audience was being jokey with me.
Oh, no.
But he was jokingly, like, complaining and, like, being argumentative. So I was going to joke back and said, now see here, you... And the audience turned on me as he stood there laughing, and I just sort of realized it doesn't matter if somebody likes you messing with them. There's some categories of people that people will always defend, even if, because you know what I mean? People will leap to defend them because you're being a meanie, even if actually, philosophically from my perspective, I was just playing along and having fun. He was making fun of me for being bald. I took a shot. I was also, those were my younger days. I probably wouldn't attempt that nowadays.
Oh, no, I think it's fair game. If they take that first shot, they should be able to take it.
Sure. I'm never like just taking random pot shots at blind people. That's not really my style. But
well, also, besides being known for your music, you're also on a podcast with your friend about, it's called Trends Like These. Can you talk about it?
Sure. It's sort of the exact opposite persona from Brentalfloss. Brentalfloss is like my Mr. Hyde, the mean side of me, the arrogant side of me, and Trends Like These is like more journalistic. It's more me trying to understand the world and find a way to break through all of the different biased news sources and really get to some kind of truth. And it's not terribly funny because the news lately isn't. So that's Trends Like These. But it is an attempt to be extremely informative and also deliver things in a way that is the least confusing as possible while still being something we think is true.
I mean, hasn't that helped you as another outlet for creativity that's not focusing on video game music and comedy?
Sure. As well as another cash flow, to be honest. Which, hey.
Oh, yeah, I don't want more money. How dare you, folks?
Right.
Please don't give me money. Well, all right, speaking of things that are trending nowadays, the Nintendo Switch. What are your thoughts on that?
You know, I think it's an interesting idea. I think that at a certain point, the gimmick is interesting, but give me the games. Same thing. Same deal with the Wii U. The gimmick was interesting. Give me the games. Switch has an interesting lineup. The game I'm developing, we're trying to get it on the Switch, so I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me, but I feel like Nintendo, by continuing to want to be an island unto themselves and do their own special, unique thing, they both offer experiences you can't get anywhere else, but also they don't really play along as well with every developer and every Although it seems like the Switch is going to be easier for third parties than the Wii U. I'm hoping that's the case.
All right, well, I'd be fool to have an interview with you and not talk about video games. What upcoming games are you looking forward to, which is not your own? We're going to talk about that.
Okay. Let's see. Upcoming games I'm looking forward to. Well, I haven't played Breath of the Wild, and I'd like to. Ukulele I'm really looking forward to. I was a huge Banjo-Kazooie fan. Those are pretty much the two ones on my immediate horizon that I'm really interested in.
What about A Night in the Woods?
Oh, I've already played it.
How is that? I mean, I was actually interested in it. There was a cosplayer here yesterday.
Oh, yeah?
Dressed as that.
Nice. I mean, my thought about Night in the Woods is it is not a game for everyone. It is very beautiful. It's great to look at. It'll win awards just based on its looks alone, and it's a world that I like to spend time in. But I don't think it's actually targeted to me. It's about a college dropout who spends each day not looking for a job.
And knife fighting.
I play the game and I get anxious going, but why don't you have a job? Get a job. Anyway, so like, it's a really fun game. It's dialogue heavy, but the dialogue's very insightful, specific, character based, and it's fun, and it's a real achievement. It's not my favorite game ever, but I think they've really done something special and unique. Well,
speaking of games that have dialogue, you are recently, you've been working on a game of your own called Use Your Words.
Yes.
Would you like to talk about that?
Sure. So Use Your Words is a comedy game where we set up the jokes and you write the punchlines. It's done in the style of a Jackbox game, as far as you're going to play on a TV, sitting around your friends on a couch, or standing around a TV behind us right now. And everyone grabs their phone, uses their smartphone or tablet as a controller. So it's a seamless comedy game that actually makes you funnier than you are. We call it a comedy game. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I didn't turn off my mic. We call it a party game for funny people and their unfunny friends. And it's going to release soon on Xbox, Steam, PS4, Wii U, and then Apple TV a little later.
Actually, one of the cool things is friends of mine, the Super Guitar Bros, were actually streaming that recently.
Oh yeah, they're really good at the game. They're sort of friends of the dev team, so they got to play it before a lot of other people did.
And those two, if actually you take the time to talk to them, they're hilarious.
Oh, they are
Especially
funny.
Sam.
They are very funny.
All right, so what's next for you besides the game?
I'll be honest with you. I'm in this no man's land as we speak, where if the game sells really, really well, that opens up opportunities for me to try creative things for which you don't get paid while you're trying them. I have ideas for musical theater pieces. I have an idea for a game that is a musical. These projects require a little bit of financial independence.
Of course.
If, say, the game flopped, well, I would have to maybe focus on a little bit more of making that income and maybe a little bit less exploring my creativity. So when you ask what's next for me, I'm so excited to find out, but it really comes down to, more than any other time in my life, how well does this game sell?
Honestly, I hope I'm not hoping that the game flops, but if it flopped, I hope it wouldn't really curtail your exploring, because you got to keep exploring. It's not like I'm giving you advice, because you don't want to stagnate.
You're completely right. It's more a matter of when your battery's drained because you've done 8 hours of making money, do you still have the time for 4 to 8 more hours of working hard on an outside project? And everyone would hope the answer would be yes. And some days, if you're just pooped, the answer is no. And that's just the hard reality of life and creative work. So all this work I've done, a little bit of debt that I've gone into, and like time put into this game, has been an attempt to, first off, obviously make a fun product and have a fun experience that is unique. But for me personally, there's also an attempt to break free of some student loan debt and maybe kind of start an upward momentum, so that some of these more ambitious projects that take a while, that I don't necessarily want to kickstart right off the bat, there'd be time and space to do that rather than trying to cram it in between other stuff.
All right. Well, if people wanted to find out about you more online, where would they go?
Okay, so if you want to see my funny video game music and lyrics, you can go to youtube.com/Brentalfloss. You can also learn more about Use Your Words there. You can learn more about Use Your Words if you Google Use Your Words on Facebook, or go to @UseYourWords on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter @Brentalfloss. That's my personal account. If you go to Facebook, you can actually let me not say that. If you go to trendslikethese.com, you will find my podcast Trends Like These. And generally, if you just Google Brentalfloss, it'll be quite an adventure for you. I'm all over the Googles. So,
well, actually, one last question. So when is Use Your Words supposed to come out?
It comes out for most platforms on April 4th. And it'll be on Wii U a little later, and then Apple TV a little later than that, and maybe the Switch after that.
All right, I guess I lied about final question. What would you like to say to your fans throughout the years?
Oh, man. Thanks for sticking with me. Please buy Use Your Words.
All right. Well, folks, this is Joe from MIGeekScene here with Brent Black, a.k.a. Brentalfloss. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.